30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening to my viewers in Africa and Europe. Good afternoon to the vast majority of my viewers in the Western Hemisphere. And good morning to my viewers in the Pacific Rim. Welcome to the Angry Astronaut. Really appreciate you guys joining me here as always. Going to be talking about SpaceX, a very common discussion that we have on this on our live streams. But usually we're talking about Starship. But obviously today we're going to be talking about Falcon 9. So in any event, yeah, we got some folks already checking in. Where is everybody watching from today? We got Nashville, Indiana. We also have Connecticut, South Georgia, USA. Hello, Robert. Thank you very much for joining us as always. Let's see, who else do we have and where are we checking in from? Once again, I'm in Shetland, have not left. There's still too much going on here. Maybe I wish I knew the name of that town, Levittown, Pennsylvania, Cambridge. Hello, Massachusetts, and hello, Wirral, UK, and Hampshire, UK, Northern Ireland. Hello, thank you for watching. Four Marks, UK, Devon, French, Canuckistan, and Springfield, Ohio. Hello, Nottinghamshire, and Linsdale, Pennsylvania, Vancouver, British Columbia, and also Oregon, Cardiff, Wales, the Netherlands, Hamburg, Germany. Hello, Southern California, and we also have Stockholm, Sweden, and Ireland. Hello, Birmingham and Edinburgh. Hello, Chancellor, Alabama, and Eastbourne, and we also are Eastbourne, and we also have Reno, Nevada. Hello, Philly and Ganymede, Toronto, Canada. And thanks very much. And hello, Uruguay. Hello, Uruguay. Thank you very much for checking in, or Uruguay, I think it's how it's pronounced. Alan, thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate that. Yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on Starliner here real quick. Houston, Carbondale, Illinois, Westchester, Pennsylvania, Space Coast, Florida. Hello, Netherlands, West Virginia, Finland. Really do appreciate that. And thank you again for checking in. So yeah, here's real quick. I'm going to go ahead and give you my take on Starliner. It hasn't changed. All right. That ship is unsafe. It's as simple as that. It's had way too many issues with its thrusters, with helium leaks, things, just recurring nagging issues that exist with its propulsion system that have yet to be resolved in spite of 2 years going by since the last unmanned test that also had problems with its propulsion system. You need to have a really perfectly functioning propulsion system when you're carrying out a re-entry, and also when you're doing a successful separation of the service module from the crew module. You need to make sure that service module is working right, and it isn't working right. So yeah, I still believe that Starliner is unsafe. I think it's unwise to allow these astronauts to go back down and risk their lives on this thing. I think it's an unwarranted gamble. But at the same time, I do believe, especially given what's just happened, that NASA is desperate for a backup commercial cruise system, utterly desperate. And so as a result, I think they are going to take their best shot at bringing this thing down, and they're sadly going to risk Butch and Sunni. Unless, like I say, I mean, right now they're still not even talking about sending up a Crew Dragon, which, by the way, they could do. As I mentioned before, I was wrong in my first comment about all that when I said that, they'd have to wait for the FAA investigation. In theory, you could definitely send up an unmanned Crew Dragon. You don't have to put people on it, obviously, to send up a rescue mission. That could probably work, although I have a feeling that they would only do that in an emergency situation. Because again, I don't think NASA wants to design a rescue mission based on a rocket that they're not sure about yet. Now, granted, we should be pretty sure about Falcon 9. I mean, come on, one failure in over 300 launches. That is absolutely fantastic, wonderful performance. I mean, absolutely stunning how well Falcon 9 has performed. However, as we are going to see, the U.S. space industry, and really the space industries of a lot of other countries, have kind of drunk the Kool-Aid on this as well. They've become spoiled by Falcon 9. They've become so dependent on a rocket that has been so good up to this point that something like this creates all kinds of consequences, which really aren't even being talked about. Alan, thank you so much for the $10. By the way, your super chats tonight are really, really appreciated. I know I keep saying things like this, but Google's cut my money again. I mean, they just keep doing it. It's just horrendous. I mean, I don't know if they're just trying to get me to try to make a living doing something else, but it's just insane. So in any event, without you guys, I wouldn't be on the air. So I really, really appreciate your assistance. That's still an appropriate term to use, on the air. Well, anyway. Okay, so let's talk real quick. Robert, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. How can SpaceX have a monopoly when they're the only ones in the game right now? Well, that's just it. They have a monopoly because they're the only ones in the game right now. But in addition to that, nobody is really signing up any of these new rockets for any contracts either. It's, I mean, we're not getting, Vulcan Centaur, they have tons and tons of business through the Kuiper constellation. But aside from that one massive customer, there really aren't a lot of, they really don't seem to have a lot of other customers besides. And of course, Ariane 6, in spite of the anomaly that happened, it did manage to deploy successfully about 90% of its payload. If it had just been a normal satellite deployment mission, it probably would have been 100% successful. Is just because they really put that rocket through its paces that it had its problems at the end. But nobody's really contracted any of these other rockets. They've been so accustomed to having Falcon 9 provide 100% reliability and so cheap. Why would you go with anybody else? John, thank you so much for the tenor. Really, really appreciate that. So let me try to tell you, I'm going to run through because this isn't being talked about. And again, I hate the whole thing of people seeing me as somebody who doesn't like SpaceX or just slamming on SpaceX. It's frustrating because the only reason I talk this way is when I notice something bad or something significant and nobody discusses it. And that irritates me. So I feel, okay, well, somebody needs to talk about it. So I will. So here's the thing. Let's go ahead and go through all of the launches that have been rescheduled, whose future is in question as a result of this mishap. There's almost 20 of them. So first of all, we have one that's relatively unimportant, and that is Starlink Group 10-4. No big deal. We can wait a little bit on that. It is a Generation to launch. So at some point they need to move forward with that. But nevertheless, now they have another one, Space Norway, launching 2 satellites of the Arctic Satellite Broadband mission into highly elliptical orbits, regardless of the nature of the mission. That was a July mission, and now will have to be rescheduled. Another, and the reason this is a problem is because SpaceX has so many launches scheduled, because they've gotten so many customers and there's such a demand that anything like this, an anomaly like this, causes an avalanche, a cascading series of launches that get bumped by other launches. And we don't know how long this is going to take. It all depends on how long the FAA takes before they at least start allowing unmanned launches. The next, you have another Starlink group, Starlink 10-5. Then you have Transporter 11. That's a huge number of customers, a vast number of customers who are not going to be, who are going to have their mission delayed. Thank you so much, Pebmits. Regardless how successful F9 is, this issue highlights why NASA in the US does not want to depend on one launch provider. No matter what is happening with Starliner now, NASA wants a second crew vehicle available. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that. And again, it's another reason why Starliner is letting us down in such a huge way, because it's really desperately needed. And instead, we have a vehicle that's ridiculously unreliable, as opposed to Falcon 9, that's only a little bit unreliable at this point, a very, very tiny amount. The only rocket that has a superior performance level right now is arguably Atlas V, or just the Atlas series, that has had no mission failures, at least failure to deliver the cargo successfully where it was supposed to go. But there was one where an engine shut down early, but it didn't impact the cargo delivery. That's as close as they've gotten to a failure. Granted, Falcon 9 has launched way more times, but still 100% success is 100% success. But that's it. Everything else, I mean, Falcon 9 is definitely better than any other rocket out there. August 3rd, you have the Cygnus resupply ship. This gets a little complicated as well, is we have all of ISS resupply with the exception of what the Russians do. Okay? Keep this in mind. Every single resupply ship that goes to the ISS is launched by SpaceX. Previously, we had Cygnus being launched by the Antares. And Northrop Grumman is trying to build a new launch vehicle for it. But right now, Falcon 9 launches it. And again, that's because of the Ukraine war. Just a lot of things, just bad timing right now with this stuff. So that will most probably, almost definitely, it's going to get pushed out in just a matter of how long. And we're going to see here in a minute how this gets a little even more complicated. Right after that, immediately after that, you have Crew 9. Okay, so you have the crew rotation for ISS. It's not just going to be Butch and Suni now. You've got everybody on ISS with the exception of one astronaut who rides on the Soyuz. Other than that, crew rotations are going to be impossible until this investigation is complete. And once again, that's mid-August. That's a month or less than a month away for Crew 9. And now at this point, that is going to get pushed out. Once again, is that a huge deal? No, because, astronauts are used to getting stuck on the ISS longer than anticipated. But still, we're talking about an entire crew rotation here. And that's just not all that cool. Then there's the Worldview Legion 3-4 Maxar Technologies satellites. There are 2 satellites, actually. So in any event, that one is August. That one is getting pushed out. And, who knows how long. And as I say, this is going to cascade. This is just going to keep pushing other missions out. Then you have also in August the GSAT 20, which was New Space India. Now, originally, that satellite was supposed to launch on ISRO's LVM-3. However, it was shifted to Falcon 9 because of mass, but also scheduling issues. They moved that to Falcon 9 because they could launch it quicker. Well, maybe not. Maybe not now. So that, that could make ISRO a little bit more hesitant, or New Space India a little bit more hesitant to go with SpaceX for future launches. Who knows? Because India certainly has had failures on their own rockets too. Although interestingly enough, up to this point, the LVM-3 has yet to have a failure. That's been a surprisingly reliable and inexpensive rocket. Let's move on. But that's only a few launches here. Can't begin to compare it to Falcon 9, not yet. Then we have September 13th. And this is significant as well. Galileo satellites for ESA. Okay. ESA was previously launching this through rockets with Arianespace. So now they've moved those over to SpaceX because Ariane 6 took forever to get into service. And now those are going to get delayed. So, you've got all these different countries who have been moving their business over to SpaceX because of a perceived 100% reliability. It's cheap. It's quick. They tend to schedule them pretty quickly, and it's 100% reliable. Or, so it was until this happened. So just one little anomaly can really ruin your whole day. Then you have, and here we go again, another resupply mission, CRS-31. Another resupply mission, again, SpaceX being responsible for that. So you got another rescheduling on that. We're still only in September, and this goes out even further. You also have a Polar Leo. That's a Space Force mission that also will get pushed out, although I'm pretty sure it's going to get a high level of priority once this investigation is completed. Space Force tends to get a lot of priority on these things. There's also a mission called Micro Geo. That was a third quarter launch. We didn't know exactly when, so maybe not quite so critical then, since it wasn't all that certain. Then there's the Bluebird Block 1 from AST Space Mobile. I mean, it's amazing how many of these launches there are. And again, this is unprecedented. We never really had a situation to where there were this many launches scheduled to go on the same vehicle, space shuttle included, that could get screwed up by these things. Then there's Blue Ghost M1. That may not have to be rescheduled because it's possible that that's an early fourth quarter 2024 mission. So maybe that's not that big of a deal, but it's a CLPS mission with Firefly. So, not that, but we're getting to some more important ones. October 8th, again, this is being rescheduled most probably, and that is the Hera mission by the European Space Agency. And the reason that mission was designed to investigate the Didymos binary asteroid system that the DART mission was designed to impact, or what did impact it rather, and they were going to study what the after effects were. This thing has been absurdly delayed up to this point, and another reason why ESA went with SpaceX is so that they could get it going finally, and now it's going to be delayed. But here's the big one. Here is the big one. Europa Clipper, October 10th, 2024. This is a really big one because Europa Clipper was intentionally moved over to Falcon Heavy primarily because of price. NASA was even prepared to accept an arrival date that was nearly 2 years later than what SLS could deliver it for because of the colossal price difference between Falcon Heavy and SLS. The other reason was there is some vibration issue concerns with Europa Clipper, so maybe that might have been an issue, but the primary thing here was price. But here's the big difference. SLS is capable of delivering Europa Clipper on a direct shot mission, on direct from Earth to Jupiter. No planetary flyby, gravity assist maneuvers required. Europa Clipper, on the other hand, requires at least a couple planetary gravity assist maneuvers. And that is highly dependent on the orbital positions of every damn planet, well, many planets anyway, in the solar system. So the timing of these launches are really, really critical. And because of this issue, and I guarantee you NASA is not going to launch this thing until they are damn certain that this is not going to happen again, that whatever issue happened with Falcon 9 would not affect a Falcon Heavy launch, because obviously Falcon Heavy uses the same upper stage that Falcon 9 uses. Until they're totally convinced that that's going to be okay, they are not going to launch that thing. So that could theoretically, depending on how long this delay lasts, put Europa Clipper into a bit of jeopardy. And the list goes on. I've just got 3 more here. There's Transporter 12, another big rideshare mission. Tons of customers on that, and they're going to have to wait. Once again, not a big deal because it's a sun synchronous orbit launch, so it's not like any of these satellite companies desperately need to go to any particular area or any particular orbit at any particular time. But nevertheless, you're talking a lot of customers who did this because of price. Let me tell you, that's the only reason they do these rideshare missions, because of price. And now they're going to be delayed, and also maybe a nagging doubt in the back of their minds as to whether or not, what happened to Starlink might happen to them. Not saying that that's necessarily a rational concern, because what happened to a Starlink mission, I mean, the checks that they do on those missions and such are not nearly as intensive as what they might do on some of these other types of launches, but nevertheless, it's just any perceived unreliability changes how a customer perceives you. Simple as that. Then we have another Crew Dragon mission, Axiom Space AX4. That also is October, and that's the final one, by the way, currently anyway. That is being impacted by this. But most probably, when all of these missions get shifted forward, it is almost certainly going to impact just about everything else. And again, the biggest mission coming in November, Falcon Heavy mission, is Griffin Mission 1, which is Astrobotic. And we're desperately looking for a win after their first failure, even though Vulcan Centaur did its job perfectly. Unfortunately, their Peregrine did not. So they're hoping Griffin is going to do the job. And that was scheduled for November. We're not sure what's going to happen to that or any subsequent missions. Oh, boy. Wicked, let's see. I got a question here. What about, let's see, a suit test in a very high orbit that was supposed to be, well, the suit test, that suit test is the Polaris Dawn mission. Polaris Dawn is definitely getting pushed out. That's a July mission, and that's already been confirmed that that's not happening right now. We don't know how long it's going to get pushed out, but it's definitely being affected. And that is the Polaris Dawn is a super exciting mission. Of course, that's Jared Isaacman, and the first ever private spacewalk. And yes, it is an extremely high, extremely irregular orbit that they're going to go into to start off with. The orbit will eventually become more stabilized and more regular. But the reason they're going all the way out there is they want to get into the Van Allen belt. Jared Isaacman is interested in studying the effects of the Van Allen belt on astronauts, on living guinea pigs, essentially, is what he and his crew are going to end up doing. And more power to them. God bless them for doing that. Because they're, obviously the amount of radiation that they're probably going to suck up in the Van Allen belt is going to be pretty limited. Because we've had astronauts fly through the Van Allen belt before, But nevertheless, this is the first time that a mission has been specifically designed to zoom into the Van Allen belt just to see, let's see what's going to happen. Let's see what this does to us. And yeah, that's interesting. And once again, Jared Isaacman, he's an adrenaline junkie and a half. He could be the biggest adrenaline junkie on the planet. He wants to do things that nobody else has done. And this is definitely that. And that private spacewalk, of course, is also going to be highly risky simply because there's no airlock. So that means you have to open the hatch, exposing the entire capsule to the vacuum of space, meaning that not only does his spacesuit have to work properly, all the other people in the capsule need theirs to work properly as well. Of course, you have an Air Force veteran on board and two highly trained SpaceX engineers. So it's not like these people are civilians or contest winners or anything like that. These are professionals. I mean, they've never been to space. Those three people, Jared has obviously, but the other three haven't. But still, these are people who really don't have the same training that NASA astronauts do, and they're going to be exposed to some pretty hostile environments that even many astronauts don't get exposed to. So they're definitely taking some big risks, but at the same time, with big risks come big rewards. So once again, even though I've said many times that this is a dangerous mission, I salute Jared Isaacman for doing it. He's got guts, and so does everybody else on the mission in a big way. So, that being the case, I mean, where do we go from here? What can we expect to have happen? Well, for one thing that I can predict with 100% accuracy is we're going to have tons of people on the internet hating on the FAA. I can guarantee that that's going to happen. As a matter of fact, it's already happening. But let me explain what the FAA investigation is actually concerned with, okay? Are they concerned about the next unmanned flight failing and delivering satellites into the wrong orbit and losing a multi-million-dollar or maybe $500 million payload? Do they care about that? Absolutely not. When it comes to space flight, the FAA could give a damn about mission success. They don't care about that. The only thing they give a damn about is public safety. So what they're going to want SpaceX to do is to tell them that, okay, even if this happens again, or even if a Merlin engine were to explode on the core stage or something like that, not that that would happen, or just if we have this happen again, at an inopportune time, the second stage is not going to come plunging down to Earth and come crashing into somebody's bedroom or something like that. All right. That is the main thing that NASA wants to know. Or the other thing that they'll want to know is, if your upper stage, has that failure, you lose control, it's going to become this unguided missile in low Earth orbit. Is that going to be a problem? And of course, SpaceX will be able to prove very decisively that it's not going to be a problem. So it's very likely that the FAA will give the green light to go forward with unmanned missions, even though the investigation is not yet complete. I think that that's very likely as long as they can guarantee no danger, or at least give very strong assurances that there isn't going to be any additional danger to public safety. Then I'm pretty certain that unmanned missions should be fine. But once again, does that mean the customers are going to be comfortable with it? A lot of them might not be. A lot of customers might want to know what happened and is it going to happen to us? I would say that there's a good chance that quite a number of these customers, especially NASA's the big one, are going to say, nah, we need this investigation to be complete before we're going to be comfortable with you taking our satellites up. Not everybody. I think some will be willing to roll the dice because I don't think it's a huge risk to take. but nevertheless, it is potentially problematic. So, all that having been said, the human rated missions, that's a different story. This investigation needs to be complete before and any corrective actions that need to be taken to make sure this doesn't happen again. All of that needs to be done. The FAA needs to look at it and say, okay, we're good, and then move forward. I don't think that's going to happen overnight. I think it's very possible that we're not going to have any sort of Crew Dragon missions, including Axiom Space, including Polaris Dawn. All of those, they're going to be delayed for quite some time. With what is currently unknown consequences to the people on the ISS, except for the fact that they are most probably going to be stuck there for a while. Once again, does that matter to most astronauts? No. A lot of astronauts are thrilled to stay on the ISS as long as they possibly can. The astronauts that I've spoken to off the record, and of course, I'm not going to say who it was or who they were, but nevertheless, virtually all of them. It's like, I can't wait to go back to space. I love being there where there's no gravity, I'm just the effect of microgravity, regardless of what the consequences might be when they come back. They love it. They love the whole experience. So I honestly don't think that's going to be a big deal, but still, crew rotation is important. So we definitely need to get that taken care of. So to wrap things up, what does this mean for the industry? Well, I think it's obvious. I think that it's important that we have choice, that we have alternatives, that we have backups, contingency plans, and none of those things can happen unless we have a robust competitive market. And it is my hope that this event wakes up all of these customers to what could happen, and they embrace, start looking at other alternatives. Not necessarily they're going to move away from SpaceX, just saying that they may take a second look at some other alternatives. And also there may be, more of an urgent drive to get those alternatives out there, whether it be in America, over here in Europe, in India, or any place else. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Once again, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Those of you who contributed on the Super Chat side, I'm telling you, it makes an enormous difference to me right now. There's no way I could be up here covering all this. And by the way, got some very exciting stuff to bring you from Saxavord here really soon. I've been on the launch side. I've been to the integration facility. I've been to so many places. Can't wait to show you all of that. So until next time, I urge all of you to stay angry about space.